What's happening in the canine industry? For all the latest news, views, and expert opinions, stay right here for the Canine Paradigm. You'll hear from industry leaders, experts, doyens of the industry, learned colleagues, movers and shakers, and the odd randy guest. Get the latest insights and expert advice from both here and abroad from the people in the know. Now, here are your hosts, Glenn Cook and Pat Stewart. And I'm Lofty Fulton, and I'm out of here.
Glenda?
Yes.
We have to do a new ad.
We do.
It's a solemn time. Mm-hmm. Our long-time sponsor of the show, George Kittredge,
Yes.
very, very sadly passed away. And we formerly used to advertise for him his Rowdy Hound boxes.
We did.
So we don't actually know what's happened with Rowdy Hound boxes. You know anything about that?
I looked at the website. It said that they're recalibrating since their founder and boss has passed. But nonetheless, I think that you and I want to honour the memory of George Kittredge anyway. He was a friend to both of us, a hell of a good guy, and he supported us almost immediately. He was on board through and through, and I just don't want any of us to forget George. He was a terrific human being.
So we intend to continue to advertise Rowdy Hound, even though we don't know what's going on with them.
Yep.
In the hopes that they keep going, and that can be a bit of George's legacy that we're able to continue to promote.
I hope so.
In checking it out, we had a look to see, because we're not real good with the sponsorship. So we had a look to see who's actually paying for sponsorship. And we have a list of people to tell you that we support. And the first is our sugar mama, Barbara de Groot.
She's been with us from the start as well. Barbara's been an absolute staple in our...
She's a gem.
She is a gem.
She has a business.
She does. From the Heart Dog Training.
From the Heart Dog Training.
Yeah.
You can check it out. But she supports us as much and more than anybody ever has. So we appreciate you very much, Barbara. Another person who's supported us from the start.
The Einzelwiener.
Einzelwiener.
The Bullfed.
The Bullfed.
Yep.
It's where I get all my stuff.
Yeah.
It is, truly. It's where I get all my dog gear. If I need something, Jason's my first point of call. I don't use his shit website. He has a website. It's dog shit. I just message him directly. You guys probably should use his shit website, but I don't.
Yeah, because you don't want to message him directly and get his grumpy ire of the day.
Yeah, but do it. Get all your dog stuff from Jason. He's got everything you need. He's got all the shit that you need to train a dog for realty.
Everybody who comes to seminars and looks at meals and asks me meals questions, ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason can point you in the right direction for getting the meal that's best suited for you.
I really like his leashes. I'm a big fan of his leash pack. That's why I sort of convinced him to do it. But anyway, get your stuff from Einzelwiener.
Yep.
Do you know who has a fantastic website and ships internationally?
My wife?
Your wife,
Yeah.
Canine Pharmaceuticals.
I couldn't imagine her not having a good website, how much of a perfectionist she is.
Well, the products are amazing. My dog merely being alive is a walking testimonial to that. My dog, who I've retired numerous times and has come out of retirement when I've managed to get his body back to healthy, and a big part of that is related to Canine Pharmaceuticals. So check it out, everybody.
I could say so many nice and biased things about Canine Pharmaceuticals and my wife, but what I will say is ignore me. Just look at testimonials. The testimonials speak for themselves. That's where the field trials are working. What makes Narelle's day, and mine as well, is when people are emailing in and sending messages of, well, primarily people have had no hope in the past because just everything that they were trying wasn't working, and now it is. And that is the testament that something is actually really working. And the other thing which I will add, one of the things that Narelle's told me in the past is dogs are incapable of understanding the placebo effect.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you can fake it on a human, but you can't fake it on a dog.
I never thought about that before. That's actually a really good point.
Well, my wife's actually a very smart person.
There you go.
So she's told me that humans are subject to the placebo effect where dogs are not. So it either works or it doesn't on dogs.
There you go. That makes total sense.
Yep.
There's one other person who puts a fair amount of work into this show.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. Funny about that.
And I have a digital product that you can buy. If you go to my website, seriousdogbusiness.com, right now I've got 2 courses available to you. The Overview, which is a small course where you could learn how I teach.
Yep.
But the other one is the Wave Tops, which is a bigger course. It's everything I know about dog training. Well, it's not everything. It's a lot of what I know about dog training.
Yeah,
Check it
terrific.
out.
Yeah.
$500 dues. That's all it's going to cost you.
I recommend it when people are saying, what do I do? How do I get in the industry? I recommend them to your course.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks,
Yeah.
sir. All right, on with the show. Welcome back to the Canine Paradigm. I'm your host, Pat Stewart. I'm joined today by my co-host, Glenn Cook. And joining us all the way from England is the man, the Yorkshire Canine Academy himself. It's Jacob Morgan. Jacob, welcome to the show, mate.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello, buddy.
Been excited all day for this one.
Mate, you've been a topic of the show a couple of times. Now you're on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, interesting. A friend sent it to me. I got a funny story very quickly.
Hit us with it.
So, Simon the Mutt Nut, who's been on our podcast a few times and a friend of ours, he's actually got the mention of him on your podcast clipped and set as his ringtone. So whenever text him or rings him, I think it's Glenn's voice just saying, Simon the Mutt Nut. So shout out to him.
That's gold. That's so cool. I love that.
I actually reached out to him after that episode because I was really impressed how the episode went. The entire episode was a really good episode. The way you spoke and the way he deliberated on what happened to him over time and how and why he transferred over and what's happened as a consequence of that. Yes, I reached out to him and I'm thinking, he probably has no idea who we are. And yeah, he was very complimentary of the fact that I made time to chat to him and stuff like that. So I thought, that's nice. It's nice to have relationships with people across the other side of the world, even though we don't necessarily know each other or have met in person, but we can still support each other and share in, I guess, the plight in some of the issues that we're all facing.
I don't think you two realize how much of an influence you have. Simon was elated. And he sent me a screenshot when Glenn messaged, and I think the term he used was something along the lines of "break out the red panties, baby, we made it," but I can't be sure on the quote.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But don't hold me to the quote. I don't know.
It was much worse than that. It was much worse.
We might have to move on. We can't give him any more airtime. This will become a problem for me in my life.
This will be his new ringtone.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's hilarious. All right,
he's going to get Christmas cards done, opened, and I was going to play this.
All right, mate. Hey, so you're in everyone's feed at the moment. Everybody sees you. You've crushed it, the social media thing. You've nailed that. I remember, we met many years ago and then, online. And then I remember the first time you came up in my feed, I was like, oh, fuck, I know that guy. And then I had a look. I was like, oh, wow, he's got a lot of hilarious fucking content here. So tell us a little bit about how all that came to be and give us a little bit of a rundown, the backstory of, your ascension to the Yorkshire Canine Academy.
Okay, so I'll give you a very quick debrief of kind of what happened or what has happened over the last 9 years or so. I was training to be a barrister, and every choice I made since kind of 12 years old was in alignment with me going on to do that career. And so I received quite a lot of pressure from my family, everyone around me, to go and do that and get a proper job. So I've completed my undergrad degree, and then I was doing what we call an LLM, which is a postgraduate degree. It's 2 years long, and it converts your undergrad degree into a law degree, as well as sufficing as a master's degree in law. And so I got probably 2/3 of the way through that, completed my first year, got my PG cert, which is a bit of a wishy-washy cert, to be honest. And then as that was kind of closing up, last couple of modules, I got a dog. I got a dog from the pound, typical, happy-go-lucky, little staffy cross shepherd. I still got him. And he obviously come up with a couple of behavioral issues. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a dog trainer, worked with the dog trainer for a bit. He offered me a job. I basically realized then I wasn't happy doing with kind of the direction my life was going. And so I took him up on an apprenticeship, basically. Worked there for 3 years. It opened up my eyes to the industry as a whole. But what I quickly realized was there was more to dog training than how we were training dogs at the time. And I had conversations with both of you individually because I started religiously listening to your podcast. Interesting fact, I got to episode 203 and I couldn't wait for the next ones to come out. So I actually started it again. So up until episode 203, I'd listened to each of those episodes twice. Right. And that was it. And I remember one episode, it stuck out to me. It was the one where you talked about an echo chamber. And I was like, shit, I had this epiphany moment. And I was like, I'm in an echo chamber. And I wanted to change how I train dogs. And I couldn't deal with not having the creative license to the point that I was like getting in trouble for like sneaking clickers to people and stuff in training. And I was getting like disciplinaries in work for using food. And so I left. I did, fortunately and unfortunately, like work my way up to being a senior trainer in that model. It's a company with multiple, like a franchise. And I was getting paid very well at the time, to the point that my family had stopped worrying about me not being a barrister because of, I was getting paid so well. But I didn't feel like it aligned with kind of how I wanted to train dogs. And I didn't have the creative license that I wanted to. It wasn't adding up in my head. And so I left that place, started doing a little bit of work myself, and then started up the Yorkshire Canine Academy, as it's known now as the YCA. Brought Kirky on board, our podcast co-host and my business partner. And then we had a couple of years, typical starting up a business, doing your one-to-ones, your group classes and things like that. And I was getting frustrated by who people were listening to. I wasn't happy with those who had voices. Maybe that's not the right phrase to use, but when we are face-to-face with clients and they say, oh yeah, I've tried this and that, and I've listened to this on YouTube and that guy on YouTube, and they name the couple of typicals, I'm like, why is it that these people have the voice that everyone's listening to? Like, how have they got this leverage? And I couldn't understand it. And so I sat down one day and decided to kind of learn a little bit more about social media and marketing. And it wasn't even the case of like, I think I was someone that needed to be listened to, but it's most certainly give me some opportunities to converse with people that I think are worthwhile listening to, yourselves, Michael, Ivan, Melanie, and so on. And yeah, I just kind of had a slight change in trajectory one day where I thought I essentially decided I wanted to leverage attention. And I know some people have their opinions about that, but if I look back on it and the opportunities it's brought about for me and my business, I wouldn't change anything. And so I actually reserved some of my time then actually into making content. And then as that platform grew, I was then able to have conversations again, people like yourselves, the network grew. And so that's kind of where we got to here and now and today.
Mate, you said something interesting then about like the opinions of others. Can you expand on that a little bit? Like with something that me and you have talked about a little bit in the past as a serious trainer, like what we see, what I see, I won't speak for you, but what I see is a lot of the people who have the biggest social media profiles, right, and are doing, the YouTube thing and are at the point where, they've got more than 100,000 followers or something like that, right? Like they're a significant entity in that space. Not many of them considered serious trainers or hold any respect of their peers or even have peers, if I'm honest, right? Like they tend to be a different group in themselves. They're not real trainers. And it can be a bit of a scary thing to say, okay, well, I'm going to put my toe into that space. Like I'm going to try and occupy that space as well, but also keep my hands on dogs, like keep actually being a trainer, stay relevant in that space, keep a high skill set, while also occupying the other. It's a bit of a tricky thing. Can you talk about that experience for you a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. What I've most recently realized is if you do want to really kind of ascend to those sort of numbers and, these millions of subscriber counts and things like that, and I think this will answer kind of the point you're making, is that you have to really double down on the marketing and you have to become like a marketing professional. That's going to detract from elsewhere, right? And so, the more I learn about social media, the algorithms and just how much goes into, because I do look at these big platforms and I'm like, I want to give you a run for your money. Like I want to get the best of my knowledge and other people's knowledge onto that bigger stage. And the more I learn about it, and I've done courses and programs and mentorships and masterminds, it's a full-time job within itself to reach that level. And of course, like you only have so much time and then something has to give. And unfortunately, a lot of the time it's going to be your skill set. And something I'm struggling with at the moment is that I have business goals and I have goals that I want to achieve on certain platforms. But then I also have goals that I want to achieve with my dog, and we're trialing next weekend. And unfortunately, I have to say, like, preparation has probably suffered because I've been too indulged in the business. And so that's probably what's happened. And I think a lot of the time, like, these guys, they start out as marketers, they find a gap, they find a niche, and then they plug in the dog training information after on a superficial level. I think that's what happens. And, these guys with bigger platforms, they're marketers first. And I think the dog trainers come after the fact. And that's something I never wanted to be. And it's something that constantly motivates me. And it's why I still compete with my dog, because I mentioned it with Michael when I spoke to him last. Like, if I do well with my dog, you can't take my real dog trainer card off me.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's for sure. Well, that's how I feel as well. It's not necessarily the truth. I feel exactly the same way. It's like, I talk a big game. I've got to be able to demonstrate that I know what I'm talking about. I've got to be able to get my dog out and show it. And the only way to do that in a real way is to compete, right? Because anyone can, you can film something 100 times. You can retake it. You can set the conditions to be correct. You can do whatever you want. But when all the gear comes off and you walk onto the field, you find out whether you get that title or not. That's the reality of the assessment. Now, I'm fully aware that, the majority of people will never compete. They're pet dog trainers and whatever, and that's fine. But that is a much more difficult thing to quantify. There's no measures. Every dog has a different starting point, and there is no finish line really, right? Like, there is no saying like, I passed the test of being a suitable in-home dog trainer beyond happy clients. And as we know, like, you've really only got to be one lesson ahead of the clients to create happy clients, right? Like, you don't actually need to be especially skilled, or you can create happy clients with fancy word play rather than actual results.
And most of the time that is linked to charisma as well. Like, if you're a charismatic sort of person and you take an interest in the other person and you know how to sort of become the ultimate chameleon, you can develop that foreplay that everything just falls right into your lap. And there's a lot of people that I've seen that have hit the professional market that are exactly that. All they are is seducers. They literally go around there and seduce people into believing that they're the best, that whatever they say is the most concurrent information that they want to pass on. While you were talking before, both of you guys, and especially when you mentioned the point of echo chamber, Jacob, it just kicked me off into reminding something that Melanie Uda wrote last night. And I'm going to quote it exactly what she wrote on her Facebook, because I think this is just outstanding what she said. It was just one of those Leonardo DiCaprio moments where you went, oh. As soon as I read it, I'm thinking, holy shit, I've got to talk about this. So it says, B.F. Skinner didn't theorize from afar. He observed pigeons obsessively. Carl von Frisch decoded the dance of bees by crawling through fields with a notebook. Jane Goodall didn't write from a lab. She lived with chimpanzees. They didn't just study behavior, they witnessed it over and over in real time. And that's what gave their science teeth. Fast forward to today, we have the luxury of dogs in our house, in shelters, in training fields, an endless behavioral database wagging at our feet. But instead of learning into hands-on exploration, we've outsourced authority to those who don't train. PhDs in animal behavior, veterinarians, veterinary behaviorists, many with little or no real experience in shaping behavior in the trenches, and are now treated as final arbiters of best practices. But that's not how science works, and it never has. I'm living this experience. I've humbled every time I've worked with a new dog or my own crazy ones. I draw inspirations from skilled trainers and align it with science. But without that daily physical dialogue with real dogs, the science is losing its footing. We don't need data on cruelty or learned helplessness. No one's asking for that. But it's 2025. Surely we're mature enough to discuss nuance, to educate instead of eliminate, to study instead of silence. Science just doesn't happen in echo chambers. It happens in the field. Nose to the ground, eyes open. Let's not forget that.
I read that this morning myself. She's really carrying the torch at the moment, right?
Absolutely.
For sure.
To draw down on that, I think that, Pat, you and I have really tried to theorize and explain while we've been having a journey on this. And Jake, I've seen you holding that torch in the UK and really stepping up. And you're in a much more, I guess, fragile environment over there where you really are being enclosed by a group of very close-minded people, which it's sad to say that there's an abundant amount of people trying to shut us up. There's an abundant amount of people trying to say, no, you can't have that conversation. To bring this into the conversation a little bit, I guess the thing that frustrates all of us is, why can't we have this as a conversation when this is abundantly clear through nature that this is needed to happen? As you were mentioning before, you went on an African safari before, and I heard you and Pat talking about that just as we were doing the lead in. Now, if you watch animals in their own world work out how we need to survive in this ecosystem with each other, it's operant conditioning 101. It's literally the way of the world. They enforce it on a regular basis. If you fuck up, you're going to get in trouble. There has to be some form of punishment in place to regulate and maintain the status quo of how this swarm, herd, flock, whatever it might be, needs to survive. Like, we have to actually do this. You see it in human society as well. You see that where there is the absence of punishment for certain groups or minorities that are starting to behave badly. There is no punishment in place because everybody's treating it as this, oh no, we've got to step very carefully. We can't talk about this, or we can't do this. And then suddenly you start seeing behavior running amok, and there is no law because everyone's afraid to do it because of this political correctness in society that we're starting to live with. If that's not clear to you, then you're not watching the same news channels that I'm watching. You're not seeing there is riots going on because there is no way of understanding that you need to pull yourself into line, mate. Like, you can't come into this country and behave like this. This isn't how it works. You see it in Australia. I've seen it in the UK. I've seen it in Europe. You see it all over the place because there hasn't been a regulation of fairness or of equity is primarily what I'm trying to say. This keeps getting confused and it keeps getting spoken down about. But as we've highlighted collectively and in groups of intelligent people, they're talking about abuse. We're talking about the correct use of punishment to regulate and maintain that status quo that really needs to be at the forefront of people's discussions.
Mm-hmm. Whilst I was in university, I was also substitute teacher in schools. I was actually teaching sport because I had a certain certification to teach sport as well. And I taught in probably around 30 to 40 schools in total over 2 to 3 years. And there was 2 schools that adopted this new teaching system whereby essentially a force-free positive reinforcement only model, where if a kid was doing something they shouldn't, the only thing you could do is reward one of the other kids for doing the right thing, right? And so if little Tim was off climbing on the monkey bars where he should be in a PE lesson, the PE lesson would stop, and the kids who was sitting still and all the rest of it would get a merit, right? To try and teach this kid, hey, if you do that, you're going to get rewarded. And then he could get off and stop whenever he wanted. He was genuinely fully ignored. And this was a whole new scientific breakthrough. This is the best way of teaching, blah, 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 blah. Granted, this is probably 2014, 15, I guess. Yeah. Across all the schools, the average session length or lesson length was around 45 minutes. But in these 2 particular schools, the average lesson length was around 12 minutes because of every time a kid did something wrong, everything had to stop. And then it would just be waiting until this kid just come back and decided to just join back in with PE or phys ed or whatever you guys call it. And that detracts so much from the children and their learning opportunities, right? It was just, I can't fathom it. There was no demerits. There was no detention. There was no, hey, you have to stop that. You couldn't even acknowledge the kid. You just had to wait until mid-lesson he jumped off the monkey bars and come and joined in the rest of the class. And when he did do that, they'd say, good lad, Tim, here's a merit for doing the right thing. And that was in 2 schools. And by far, they were the 2 schools I dreaded going into. I fucking dreaded going into those schools because if that kid could come and spit on you or whatever he wanted to do, nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. I just couldn't fathom it.
Yeah, it's wild. It just doesn't work in the real world. That's what I think is interesting when you sort of dive into these things is on paper and in theory, you're like, fuck yeah, amazing. They're like, for sure that'll work. And then you've only got to experience it one time. You're like, oh, wait, no, this is a fucking disaster. This isn't working at all. And surely at that point, you then have to be like, oh, okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board. Like we have to abandon this. But I think people, they back themselves into a corner policy-wise, right? Like where they say that, and I think this is true of, more specifically to us in dog training, is if you then label any other form of training as cruel, then you can't change back to that form of training. Like if you then go, okay, I'm a newcomer to this, I'm observing the field of what I see here, and I see you people as what you're doing as absolutely cruel. The prong collar itself is a cruel tool. The e-collar itself is a cruel tool. And so there is no uncruel use of the tool, right? Or even the idea of punishment is, it has to be aversive. That's what punishment is. Therefore, that is cruelty. I am putting all of that into the basket of cruelty, and I'm going with this other method that I have decided, and I've read the literature from other people who don't actually do things, and we've all collectively decided this is the way to go. When you then realize, oh, fuck, this doesn't work, you now can't actually just pivot and go, oh, I'm going to be the cruel one now, right? Because you've labeled it as cruel. You've painted it into a way that where you can't change teams. And so you don't
mate from the Mutt Nut did.
Mutt Nut did.
That's what I mean.
There it is.
Difficult, right?
New ringtone, boom.
Old mate the Mutt Nut.
That's a good one.
Old mate the Mutt Nut. Best dog trainer in England. Way better than Jacob. There you go. Got
it. Oh my God, that's going straight to the wank bank. I'm going to get his girlfriend to film him listening to this live and watching. He'll cry. He will cry. We will catch real tears.
Post it. Let's go viral.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, that's the issue I see is once you've said that's cruel, you can't change to it. And that's what we saw. Like, this is the interesting thing where, say, like prong collars got banned here in Queensland, and they've then said, okay, well, the device is an inherently cruel device. There is no way to use that. There's no exemptions for anybody. The device itself is an inherently cruel device. So then you can't then give an exemption to the military or to the police, right? Because then you can't say that's cruel and then say, okay, well, we're going to allow our own guys to be cruel. Because say, like one of the things, you guys are pretty similar. Like, guns in Australia are nearly impossible to get. Not nearly impossible. It's very, very difficult to own a gun. And you can, but you've got to have all these legitimate reasons. And what you can't own is an automatic machine gun. You can't own that, right? There's no way for a civilian anywhere in Australia to own that. But the military has them, right? And you look at it and you go, okay, well, the gun itself is not going to do anything, right? Like the gun sits on the shelf in the armory and waits for the operator of the gun. And we've decided this guy, because of the role that he does and the thing that he does, we're giving him permission to go 900 rounds per minute. Like, fuck yeah, but nobody else has any reason to do that. And so that circumstance, we then say, okay, illegal for civilians, legal for the military, because the civilians shouldn't use it. The military is going to need to. But then the way that they wrote that prong collar legislation, they're like, no, it's cruel. So like, what are you going to do? They'd be like, oh, we allow the army to be cruel to their dogs. Like, you can't fucking do that. But I tell you what's cruel. Try and control one of those fucking dogs without a prong collar. Right? Like, now you're going to get to see actual cruelty. You'd say you get high-end military working dog, the kind of dog that is obsessive, and I hate using the word stubborn, but stubborn is what they are. When they decide they want to do something, they're fucking doing it. And when you can train them to do the right thing, then they're like really committed to doing the right thing, because that's what the stubbornness works. But good luck without the tools. Good luck breaking through that. And the level, the cruelty you'll see in having to communicate with those dogs absent the tools. But you can't come back on that, right? And I think that's what we see around the world. And that's what you would see with that school. I bet you they pitched it as like the other way is wrong. And then when you're watching this way just turn to shit, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't turn around on this. Like, my ego doesn't allow for that at this time.
Yeah, I think it was actually like the head teacher as well that like brought it in and was like, this is this new revolutionary thing. And she would double down on it too. For a lot, I'd left by the time like I saw anything happen or any change. So it could be the same today. The place is probably burnt down, probably.
That's an interesting point, mate. After hearing you speak about that, I recall a student group that I did with the NDTF a while back, and there was a lady in there. She was very interested in the learning theory when we started bringing it up and talking about operant conditioning. And she was asking a lot of questions about it at the time, like not combative questions. She'd done her study on it, and I could see that she had a background in behavioral sciences herself. So during one of the breaks, I sat down with her and I said, you were asking a lot of questions that most people, unless they've done like a psychology degree or have a vested interest in it, wouldn't really ask. And I said, what's your background? She said, interesting you say. She said, I used to be a primary school teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. And she said it was in the family DNA. And she said, I couldn't wait to become a teacher. Like it was obsessive for me. She said, all my life, I've kind of been geared to becoming a teacher. I finally got my chance. I went to university, got my degree, went into a school and started learning how to become a teacher. And then she said, and then I got placement. But she said, I got involved in one of those schools that was rolling out the entire positive reinforcement of children. She said, within 6 months, it completely broke my back. It gave me PTSD so bad that I can't even think about teaching children anymore. She said it was such a horrific experience. The kids aside, the entitlement from the parents on their children and everybody's butting in and everybody's more important than everybody else. And she said it just literally collapsed in on itself. And she said the rollout of teachers going through the school was just incredible because people were there to be abused all the time, just be a punching bag for kids that need input from parents. And she said, and this is the sad part about it, she said, it's not their fault. They want to learn. They want somebody to bring them in line. But she said the way that they're learning and the way that they understand the world is I can behave in any fashion I want to, and nobody will stop me from doing what I want to do. I think the direction that we were taking the conversation at the time, and this is where I was very much into my positive first mindset. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if you could say to the children, hey, we're going to do this from a positive first application. Like we're going to try it this way, but it's entirely up to you where the punishment is employed or not. It's entirely up to you. It's your choice. We can go down the line as positive as we can, which we have been absolute advocates of pretty much since we got going. That's been our MO of how people should invest in training their own dogs. Like this should be as positive as it can be until it can't be anymore. I just thought how diabolical and how terrible that this is not the only person I've heard this type of story from. I mean, it's happened in workplaces as well, but how diabolical and how destructive it is that we're setting the future generations of our world up where they don't have any understanding of the negative application of certain behaviors. Like they just believe that the world going forward is everybody saying yes to them. You're starting to see the result of that. You're starting to see children that just don't understand how to comprehend the real world anymore. Once they get out of their helicopter parenting cycle and this fictitious world of teaching where they go into a workplace and the people at work say, mate, that's not fucking happening. You're not behaving like that here. And if you do, you can just fuck off, beat it. This isn't how it's going to be. And you actually start to see these people have major meltdowns. They can't deal with things. Mental health is on the increase because they have no barrier or no paradigm to actually set them straight anymore. Again, like I have to see this in. The diabolical side of it is when people start defending this. But again, they're confusing operant conditioning with abuse. Abuse has to be addressed. If people are abusing other people or if people are abusing animals, then yeah, man, that's got to be addressed all day long. That's something that is very reportable to authorities, and it should be. But if you're talking about just lining somebody up to say, mate, if you do that, here's the list of consequences that come with that. It can be good or bad. It's up to you. You behave in a fashion that either aligns with our workplace or aligns with our school or aligns with our family interests, or here's what happens as a consequence of not doing that, as a negative consequence of not doing that.
Mm. I think there's a lack of accountability pandemic, as you alluded to. There's like people can't just accept that they've not got something quite right, or maybe they're in the wrong. And then generally like the resilience thing as well, because of, again, like these kids, they're just brought up with absolute no rules, boundaries. But to like a very quick story, I once witnessed a child refuse to go into school until his mum put a bag on her own head to walk him in. She got out, she put a bag over her head, and because the kid refused to walk in, and she walked him down the school driveway with a fucking shopping bag over her head. And then he was like, "Yep, sound. Thanks a lot for doing that, Mum. See you later." And then she just like took the bag off and walked off. Like, how insane is that?
Imagine the fucking crazy motherfucker you are building and putting out into society when you do that shit. Like, legit.
I've got another example, and this kid is 100% a serial killer, right? So we're in the sports lesson or whatever, and if anything went slightly not this kid's way, he is having a meltdown, like throwing chairs through windows. And this is a very affluent area. This is like really nice part of Leeds. Playing like dodgeball one day, you get 3 lives or whatever. This fucking kid's, he's like 10 years old. There's like going to be 8 games in an hour. So if you're out, it's definitely not a big deal. You're back in 30 seconds, right? So the kid gets tagged out or whatever, and he goes off on one of his meltdowns, blah, 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 all lesson stops and all the rest of it. And then anyway, I'm chatting to his head teacher after, and I'm like, fucking, what's up with him? Like, what's going on in his life? And this kid's like 8, 9, 10 years old max. And she's gone like, yeah, so he's like the man of the house. And every night, him and his mum sit down for a candlelit dinner. They share a glass of wine. They go to bed together. There's nothing sexually going on. There's no welfare issues like per se. But this kid is basically like become a man or whatever. He like bullies his mum. Is basically in like a controlling relationship with his mum and all the rest of it. And he's 10 years old.
Wow.
But it's like really, really scary stuff, what people are allowing children to do and act and be like.
We got to get back to real dog training, but last thing I'll say.
Sorry.
Like the kid with the bag over the head on the mum, that terrifies me because it's something I say all the time. I got 2 boys, right? I got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. They're about to be a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old. I say all the time, like the way that they speak to them, that they will likely never love any woman more than their mother, right? Like that's kind of how it works. And the way that they speak to their mother is the best you can hope for that they will ever, the way that they treat their mother, the way they speak to her is the best you can hope for, the way that they'll treat any woman in their life. And so like that's one of the things where I run that shit with an iron fist, because it's like, no, man, like you don't boss your mum around. You don't treat her like shit. That's absolutely fucking not something that's going to happen. That's not going to be tolerated, because that will destroy your life and the lives of others if I allow you to do that shit. Anyway, we're a long way from our wheelhouses, so let's course correct and come back around and keep shitting on Jack. So tell us more, mate. So
Yes.
You've developed this social media profile. One of the things that's interesting to me, and people maybe are sort of getting a sense of it if they listen to your podcast and sort of listening to you now versus like what you're like in your reels. It's a character. It's a comedy. You sort of are quite different. Not in a disingenuous way, but it's more like it's a outwards facing comedy routine almost. Tell us a little bit about the choice to do that and how it's come about to be.
I guess if I'm fully transparent, it was playing to the circus a little bit. Like I said earlier, I knew kind of, I always say like I would love to be someone that talks about operant conditioning, classical conditioning, and the intricacies of dog training and why we should do certain things with puppies and avoid certain things and so on and so forth. But it just wasn't going to give us the leverage that we probably wanted from a business point of view and then from kind of an attention point of view, right? Like I said earlier, I wanted to eventually give that deeper education to people and enable others, again, like yourselves, to come onto the platform as well and deliver that as well. But it just wasn't going to get there, probably delivering the content in a style or the material that I probably would have preferred to. And so, again, full transparency, had to play the game a little bit and had to like look at adjacent niches and was like, what's working in other niches? And I was like paying close attention to like the fitness industry and what was like going on there. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, kind of funny. All right, let's give a couple of these a go. Let's see how they go. And then a couple took off. And then that in itself is data, telling you what's working, what's bringing people to your platform. And so that was just then reiterated. And if you notice now through our Instagram stories in particular, push a lot of long form content there. And obviously with the CTAs and stuff in the short form videos. And I see the short form, like silly stuff, the entertaining stuff to get people onto the platform. And then like now we've got people, hey, this is what you need to hear. I'll fucking do the monkey dance and the symbols if you want to get you onto the platform. But once you're here, like, you need to know this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then hence why we're doing the podcast, we're bringing guests on, and then the YouTube more specifically as of late.
Yeah, and I think, mate, you're one of the people, to blow some smoke up your ass, I think you are one of the people that has kind of mastered that. Like, you do have real good information to pass on and do that very well, but also are able to be that sticky character that people enjoy in their feed, and rather than just being dry and boring. I know for sure, like, that's certainly what would happen with me. Like, all my stuff is just like, hey, here's dog training facts. And if you're not already mad into it, it's not going to help, right? Like, you're like, who the fuck is this dickhead? Like, I'm sure that I come up in lots of people's For You, and they're just like, what is this guy? And because there's often not dogs in the footage, probably gives them no context. They're like, who the fuck is this guy even talking about, right? Whereas I'm playing to that, like, a different market. But the way that you do that, I think, is I'm impressed by it, mate. I think that you do a very good job. And I think that you do that with humor and intellect in a way that brings people in, but then the content is actually good when they get there, rather than what we often see is, like, the content is thin when people go into a lot of others. Like, there's actually nothing of any value. And usually it's more of a case of telling people what they shouldn't do rather than anything about what they should do.
It's quite a difficult road to navigate because there's only so much you can get into as you'll know, a 90-second clip. And there's certain parts of concepts and principles that you miss out, and the glue that ties things in together. And in some instances, it can be dangerous. And there's a couple of pieces of content that I probably regret putting out, in terms of it was enough. It was some information to maybe get people to think and act differently, but not enough information that they maybe would apply things correctly. And so that's what I really try and avoid to do nowadays. And I try and keep the short form content, like, really just safe and entertaining, and then extrapolate and expand on those points then in the content where we have time.
Yeah. Tell us about your own training a little bit. You said that where you started out, I get the vibe that was a bit like compulsive, and you wanted to lean more towards the plus R type stuff, and that's why you went out on your own. Tell us a little bit about your own sort of journey through that and your skill set with it, and why you wanted to lean away from your original mentor or your original trainer's positions.
Yeah, so I obviously got the first dog, straight onto YouTube, and then obviously exposed to Zach George. He told me I have to do this to be nice to my dog, and I love my dog, and I still love that dog more than fucking anything on the planet, right? And so obviously I'd never want to do any harm by him. So I was like, okay, this guy's right. So, I'm doing it all, and it doesn't work. Things get worse. It doesn't work. Things get worse. And then I go to a dog trainer, and then he shows me something like completely different, and it works, right? And I'm like, oh, this must be the thing then, because of everything up until now just hasn't worked. This must be real dog training. Brilliant. And he's selling me the snake oil a little bit, like real, like, old school shit. Like, if you get your dog to do anything for food, they're not doing it for you. They're doing it for themselves, and you'll never build a good relationship and all of this sort of stuff, right? I'm like, okay, all right, well, it's the opposite to what I know doesn't work, so therefore it must work, right? Because I'm like, there's this or there's this, and I know sure as hell that this fucking doesn't work, but this does work because he's now ignoring other dogs. And then I get into it, and I'm like indoctrinated, fully indoctrinated, which is fucking just insane looking back on it. I always make a point here that I am yet still very, very grateful. And I don't name the place, I don't name the guy. I'm grateful. Without him, I wouldn't be here. And so it's not an out and out like dig, but I just want to say that. And anyway, I again come across your podcast, and I start listening to it all. And you, Pat, especially, is talking about clickers a lot. And I was like, no, this clicker stuff is bullshit. Like, Zach George did the clicker stuff. It's fucking nonsense. And then you did an episode where you were like, oh yeah, I thought clickers were bullshit, but I wasn't using it right, or something along those lines. And I was like, okay. And anyway, I did the sensible thing, and I got a second dog. I get one of these fucking Romanian street dogs, right? Who's just a piss wet bag of nerves. And I'm like, okay, I know what to do. Just the same shit. I'll just like hammer her into being a good dog. That didn't work because she was a super sensitive dog. And I was essentially just like crushing her. And I was like, this doesn't seem right because although Ranger wasn't a well-behaved dog, Ranger being my first dog, he was a resilient dog. And so he would have endured the pressure and just be like, yeah, sweet, mate, I won't do that. Like, we're all good. I want to please you. It's like basically a fucking Labrador. And so I had this like false positive. And then so we start going through this stuff with Darla, and I'm like, there's got to be like more to it than this, because like she's scared of the world. And I can get her to stop doing things because she can sit and she can stop pulling, and I can get her to stop doing all these things. But like she sat there quivering, like she's a mess, and she's like, is she jumping at her own farts? So I'm like, okay, I need to do something about this. And then I come across the box stuff. And so I'm playing around with clickers. I'm free shaping her to touch people. I get her doing box work, and I see a totally different dog. And then I'm at this point, I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong again. And the second time I've been wrong, there's more again, right? And I'll fully say, like, when I worked this place, I was like in year 3, I was like, fuck, I've done it. I've nailed it. I can stop any dog pulling. Just give me a slip leash and I am the man, right? Yeah. And I look back now and like some of the sessions and stuff, and it makes me like genuinely cringe. But yeah, so I get to a point where I'm wrong again. There's more to it than this. And again, I binged your podcast. I booked a couple of calls with you, Pat. I spoke to you as well, Glenn. And I was like, just tell me I'm wrong. I need clarity. Like, I need clarification that I'm not right. You need to tell me. And you were both like, yeah, I don't think that, like, there's more to it than that. And I was like, fuck it. And it was after speaking to one of you guys in quick succession, I went in and just handed in my notice. And I was like, I ain't doing this. There's more to it. I'm going to go learn. And yeah. And then it just opened up, and it was like this really beautiful time where there was a massive weight lifted on me, because it was just playing on my mind over and over again. I was delivering clients different to how I was training my own dogs in private. I was training my own dogs in what I believe to be the optimal way to train a dog through the issue they were having. But yet with my clients, I was doing something entirely different because I was bind to a curriculum. And therefore there was a moral dichotomy there. And yeah, that really like chipped away at me over time, and it really broke me down to the point I was like super stressed about it, to the point I was like not eating, not sleeping. And I was in the business because I was getting paid really good money, like really more money than I thought I'd be able to earn as a dog trainer. And I just had to say, see you later. I had shares in the business as well at the time. I was gifted shares. I had to relinquish all of them. I sold all them for like £1 each back as per my contract. And I just had to start again. And of course, it was the best thing I ever did. And that next 6 months where I felt like I had to like relearn everything and ultimately like start my business to start making money again, because I just bought a house. I wasn't earning anything. I then basically went to pressure and release with a slip lead, and then just clicking and rewarding the dog as the icing on the cake. And then things developed from there. I started opening up more things to the arsenal and concentrating on play a little bit more. And then I went and got my sport dog, who I have now and who I compete with. And then that changed things and kicked me on a little bit, forced me to add even more tools to the repertoire. So I'm very grateful for him too.
Do you remember the first client dog that you could train however you wanted? Do you still remember that?
So there's a couple ones at the back end of the last place, and then I got found out because I fell over on my ankle one day and I couldn't make it into work, and so someone had to come and cover my sessions. And these people, like a bunch of people, like rocked up with clickers and food, which are like banned. And then I got a phone call like, "Hey, why have these all got clickers and food?" And I was like, I don't know. And then I had a couple of clients that followed me out of that business because I was like, guys, I'm leaving. And they were like, you're our trainer. Like, we're going to come with you. And I was like, okay, sweet. And I like honored the rest of their courses for free. Right. Even though they paid the business, not me. I was like, just leave me a review when I do my new place. But you know, all that shit I told you, yeah, forget about that. We're going to do it like this. Which was like,
What did they think about that? How was their reaction to that when you had explain to them that you're completely changing the format?
So at first, it was just like introducing some food as reward and saying like, hey, look, you can actually play with your dog and it's not going to make your dog an insatiable, crazy monster of a dog. Like you can play it, play with it, we can add some control to it. And so I had to kind of wangle my way through those difficult conversations.
Again, listening to you talking and sharing notes about your journey, I feel that for myself, rigidity is the enemy of flexibility. And I feel that every time I've watched trainers that I admire along the journey, and it doesn't matter where they are, anybody who sort of figured it out and they're exemplifying that through their own work with dogs, it's been an exciting journey to watch. And it's exciting to watch people like yourself and other people who are evolving along the way, who have worked out it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to understand that there are other methods that I can try. And that was exciting for myself as well when I started to realize, this isn't the way. There were plenty of times where I convinced myself this is the way. Like this person is the person that I've got to study and I've got to literally lay at their feet to get every morsel of information off them. If you listen closely to really good trainers, they'll encourage you to be flexible. They will tell you that you need to be enlightened to the teachings of other people. And essentially that's how they learn themselves. Whereas closed-minded and guarded and jealous people will restrict you on that way of thinking. They'll say, no, don't look outside this. You cannot see any other way. And unfortunately, people get very drawn in and sucked in by that because they feel like, well, without you, who am I? Like you're a big part of my personality. You've certainly entwined yourself within my soul. And if I don't have you, how can I be a complete version of myself? That's a terrible thing for anybody to encompass that because they can't then find the evolution of becoming their own person. And that's something that, later in my life, I've tried to encourage people to think, because if they become too attached, then they can't think freely and they can't do things with that childlike fascination of, this is awesome. This wasn't working, but somebody showed me another way, or just through observation and my own experiences of combining methods that I've learned with a bunch of other people, I found a way that breaks through to this dog. Like I can actually now have a conversation with the dog, whereas before I was speaking in a completely different language to this dog. It just didn't make any sense to it. And I love that. I really feel that is just that for me is an exciting thing to see these days, because I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of trends. I've seen people who they're convinced that this is the way because they're on that journey. And I'm just thinking, you'll learn. There are other ways. I've seen Pat do that himself, where he's been convinced that this is the way to do things. And I've thought Pat's a smart enough guy who will start to understand that when he starts seeing more experiences, he'll come around to thinking, there's a lot of other ways to do it. And he has, through his own observations. You sometimes just need to let people work it out, whereas other people, you need to guide them. Some people need to be really handed over to, no, come over here, whereas other people, you can just watch them and be excited for their journey to unfold as well. As Pat was mentioning before, watching you on social media and watching you become your own person and learn to communicate to other people and to help them along the way and do what you need to do, to wrap it up in a nice little bit of lolly paper for some people to unwrap and find, here's the message inside this. You sometimes need to do what you need to do to break through to people, to get through the stigma, to introduce a little humor, to introduce a little bit of seriousness. What was the saying that you used to say, Pat, that you learned from Bart? Stir in a bit of shit. What was that?
Yeah. Some dogs' lives have been all cream, so you got to stir in some shit. And some dogs' lives have been all shit, so you have to stir in some cream.
And it's like that with people too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fucking earth it is. Maybe more than dogs.
I think so.
Jacob, to this point, mate, we've established you as a conscientious trainer, highly skilled, always looking for more, very capable. Now let's talk, and we've discussed about your capacity to understand social media. You put in the time to doing that. It's not like it was a natural thing. You did the courses, you learned it. Let's talk about sort of the business sense of things, in that you at the moment have, am I right that you have like programs for dog trainers, not just necessarily for dog owners and people who are looking to fix their dog? Because that's what Yorkshire Canine Academy is, right? Like you guys are a physical location. You have people come in and actually do classes, and it's real dog training.
Yeah.
But you're providing something of a like service to dog trainers as to how to market better, how to run their business better, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We're open 7 days a week and we see about 150 dogs a week, from puppy classes, group classes, one-to-ones. We have a life skills class, an obedience class, PSA club. And so we see a lot of dogs, and we're very fortunate to work a lot of dogs hands-on from all ranges with all different issues. And we obviously have a team that do that. And then myself, I've kind of started deviating towards helping out dog professionals, aspiring dog professionals that were in my position that I might have been in 4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm trying to allow them to try and navigate the waters of the rapids, if it were, of kind of avoiding the mistakes I made, essentially.
And so what does that look like? Like you got an online program for that or something?
Yeah. I have a mentorship group.
Yeah, nice.
So do 2-3 cohorts a year. Got a couple of trips planned this year, so I'll probably just stick to the 2. They run 10 weeks long, but there's kind of a year's support on a second level after that as well.
Yeah, right.
Coming to see you guys in September.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a 2-day business development workshop for dog trainers at, I believe it's now at your place, Glenn, right?
Yeah, it's at Dural now. So that's lots of people in Australia who have been to seminars. What's that?
I've been dropped off the roster. I've been left behind.
Yeah, that one sold out really, really quickly. I didn't think there would quite be the niche there, but yeah, that sold out really quickly. I think there's 35 tickets sold for that. So you had to give Uncle Glenn a ring and see if he had any room for us to come and play.
Upgrade.
And so he kindly said he could. So looking forward to that. And then we got to the Sunshine Coast week after, do some actual dog training stuff then. And before that, I'm off to the States in July, mid-July. There's a reactivity workshop in a place called Concord, and we're working with training adventure dogs, Sam, and then going to go visit the Michael Ellis School and do another business development for dog trainers and talk about kind of our models, how we scale things, social media, what needs to go on sales pages, email marketing, making sure you're not getting yourself burned out and things like that. Yeah, I've learned a lot in the last couple of years with our own business, helping out other dog trainers too. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we're super behind in the dog training industry with our kind of sales and marketing. And the people that are ahead of us, like we alluded to earlier, they're not real dog trainers. And so whether we like it or not, I think we have to get better at this stuff. Especially, if we want to be promoting the right sort of education and actually protect and essentially conserve dogs. We can't just be good at dog trainers. We have to have, I say we have to have buckets, and this is something I've been conscious of for a long while now. If you want to make the change that you want to make, and a lot of times that's kind of why dog trainers get into the gig, right? Because they want to make some change. They want to do right by dogs. They have an affinity for the animal. You need your buckets. You can't pour from an empty bucket, and they are a skill set. So the application of knowledge, a network. So like-minded professionals that you can network with. Unfortunately, cash flow. So you can look after yourself, put on your own oxygen mask first, and finally reputation. So providing, improving, documenting results. And I think if dog trainers are setting out to do what they a lot of time intend to do, again, making change, protect the animal, you need full buckets. You can't pour from an empty bucket. And that's something I've been very conscious of the last couple of years.
If you had to guess, mate, why do you reckon there is such a inhibition is maybe the word from dog trainers about marketing? We tend to attack our own. When people are good marketers, we tend to attack them. We complain when people offer marketing services to teach other people how to market. And we see a lot of people who are probably really good dog trainers getting really mad at people who are not as good at dog trainers as them, but have put in the work to learn to market.
Yeah.
It is a tricky space. We definitely are an industry that gets tall poppy syndrome. We like to cut people down who have work to strive and earn more. Have you got any idea of why you reckon that is, or it just doesn't come into your zeitgeist? You just steam past it?
Yeah, the latter for sure. And I've got a couple of methods to deal with it as well. But yeah, I don't know, mate. it's a chicken and egg situation in that the marketers, the ones that are good at marketing, they don't have the best kind of reputation, I guess, as we mentioned earlier. And therefore they build the association that good at marketing equals bad dog trainer. I don't know. There's always an element of jealousy there or comparison. I think comparison is just jealousy with a mask on. And so I think people are just a little bit threatened by what they're not good at, right? So it's quite a well-known dog trainer in England. He's got a few thousand followers, good reputation, and as far as I know, good dog trainer. And he's kicking off about one of the big YouTubers and all the rest of it and how dog trainers become a circus, so on and so forth. But this is also a dog trainer that is like really pushing against the e-collar ban, right? And if he did have a platform the size of, I don't know, like my platform, like he could make a much bigger change and influence. Like my mailing list is like 40,000 people in the UK. So that's 40,000 people I can contact and say, hey, fill in this. And when that time comes, I'll be utilizing that. And that's thanks to social media. And so, yeah, there is an element of a circus there, but it also gives you leverage if you do want to make the change. And if that's standing up to policies that are imminently due to be implemented, then yeah, like we're better equipped to deal with that because we have that audience, thankfully.
I think because dog training is somewhat of an unmasterable skill, right? Like you work at it forever. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that you've never done. Nobody's finished. And I think we all sort of know that and we all feel it to certain degrees. So I think that what we often find is imposter syndrome is pretty common in the dog space, right? Like lots of people have that. Lots of people feel like they're sort of out of their depth when they're not. They're very good at what they do, and there's an element for sure of that constant concern of being found out to be a fraud is what makes sure that you never will be, right? Like I'm aware of that. Like it's a dark motivation, but it's motivation nonetheless. But then what I see is we'll get somebody who's really well established. I watched a video recently where a guy was talking about new decoys who have basically bought a bite suit, have worked a couple of dogs and are now doing seminars and offering to know what they're doing to bring a dog on for someone, right? Like from puppy to street dog, they're advertising knowing to do it, not having done it. And the guy was sort of shitting on that. And like I agreed with everything he said, but I also thought he was talking to me for a period, right? And I think that's the sort of problem when we see a lot of that sort of talk, right? Like because nobody wants to call anybody out specifically, or when they do, it's because there's been a specific instance. But a really senior person might look out over the field of young trainers and go, oh, fuck, there's a problem here. And I'm going to address it. And they'll, say something, make a video, do a podcast, something, whatever. And they'll talk about like, hey, you shouldn't be overselling yourself. Like come up properly, do the hard work. And what I kind of find is the people who they actually have in mind while they're talking about that are either not going to see what they're talking about or see it and agree with them entirely and be like, yeah,
that's not me.
Yeah, that's definitely not me you're talking about. It's those other dickheads and agree with it entirely. And the people who it is going to have a profound effect upon are the people who are actually not at all who you're talking to, right? Like it's the people who are like, oh my God, he's talking about me. This is me he's talking about. I need to be better. I need to stop doing the outwards facing things that I'm doing. I need to just internalize. I need to increase my skill set. I need to go to more things. I need to learn more. I need to get better at what I'm doing before I dare tell anyone about what I'm doing. And then that diminishes the people who are actually really fucking good and need to be doing it and creates more space for the people who are like, yeah, he's right, even though he's talking about you, right? And it increases. And so that's always been my thing. You see people like, and I've been guilty of it. Like we all hit our frustration point, but some people use it as a marketing tactic for sure. But you get the email, you wake up one day and you've got an email from someone talking about how everybody's shit except them and that you shouldn't be buying anybody's courses except them because they're the only person that knows anything. And the only people that heed that are the people absolutely who should be doing the things. And so that's what I see throughout the industry all the time.
Yeah, I think with that, when you guys were talking about the marketing platform before, the element of sleaze that comes with it is what detracts people, because there's sometimes a wall of that where you'll hit 3 people deep and you'll think, fucking hell. Like this has happened to me in different fields. It might not be dog training. It has happened in different things that I've been interested in where I've had to wade through the sewer of fucking shit people to find the quality people who really do know what they need to do. And you need to have that level of endurance to be able to find those people, because there is a fucking vast landscape of people who are terrible. And you don't know they're terrible if you've never had an experience in it before. You get a little bit along the journey and thinking, oh yeah, this is the person. This is the one that's going to save me. This is the one that's going to drag me through, until you realize, oh, fuck, it's not. Like, I've gone 6 months down this rabbit hole and this person's a complete and utter fucking nutter, instead of, being somebody that I aspire to be or somebody that I want to learn from. They're actually the town fucking lunatic. And as I've said, like, I've had those experiences before. Or I've had an experience where I've lucked into finding the person that is open and enthusiastic and shares and invites other people in to be a part of the story. And you think, that was just sheer fucking luck that I met that person. I feel for myself that there are some trainers out there. I'm glad they're on social media. I'm glad they're sharing their story. I'm glad that they're upskilling and giving snippets to people, because then you can actually see, as Melanie Uda implied before, you can actually see through their work. Like, they're sharing things online. They're showing people, this can be done. This could have been you. This could have been somebody that you know. This could have been old mate down the road that should be ringing you up. And this is how to work with that person. And if you want to know more, I got a course on that. I can teach you how to do these things. I can upskill you. And I think that is the value of those 90-second clips, where you can show people along the way and you can give them a generous amount of information. Whereas a skilled person, as Pat has implied before, could go onto your YouTubes, could go onto your social media, and if they bundled it all together, they could say, oh, you've taught me a whole bunch of stuff on this. I can work through that. However, what I would say to that person, the devil is in the detail, and the small things really matter. And that's generally what you find in people's programs. Sometimes you'll just miss those critical little nuanced moments where the course actually teaches you how to glue it all together, rather than you fumbling through and then having to take 6 months to do something where the person has already shown you, hey, this is the steps, this is the fumbling point, this is where I made mistakes. Pat and I were talking a while ago, and he was putting out some really good videos, and I said to him, hey, show the mistakes as well. Show some of the things where you're frustrated with Remy, because I think people will find value in that, because nobody else is really doing it. They're just showing the glittery things, the stuff that looks nice all the time. I like to see where people fuck things up and how they recovered from that. Like, that's really exciting for me. And I think that needs to be part of people's marketing campaign. Is lots of mistakes happen in this. There are lots of takes that happen when you go to put something online, and this is how you address it. This is the patience of the saint that you need to have in these moments. Or this is where you need to import punishment into your program. And this is the very reasons why it all comes together. Enough of me doing my soapbox preach. I had a question for you, Jake. What's one of the funniest things in training, one of the most memorable things that you still laugh about to this day?
It wasn't in training, and we only laugh about it in retrospect, but in our last trial, I can't believe I'm saying his name again, but the Mutt Nut.
You mean,
can we bleep it on
trainer
that?
ever, Mutt Nut. He's the best. He's the best.
Europe's number one.
I'd say the world. I'd say he's the best dog trainer in the world. I'd say the Mutt Nut is the best dog trainer on the planet.
Mutt Nut for the king of the world.
He told me everything I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how to be a better man now because of the Mutt Nut.
Yeah. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I imagine myself as him. I just sort of try to impose.
Pat nuts to the Mutt Nut.
And I look at him and I think, fuck, that's what a man is, hey?
Yeah.
Fucking specimen. Specimen of a bloke.
Anyway, carry on.
I tell you what, if you found him in bed with the missus, you'd tuck him in.
Fair enough.
Very good.
All right, so what did he do at the trial?
Yeah, so mate, he's helping me in the warm-up area, and I fob my toy off to him, and I give the wrong marker to my dog, and my dog just fucking smokes his hand going for the toy and puts a big old hole in his hand, and I'm like, just about to go on the field for the twos, and I'm like, fuck, you okay? And he's like, Obviously, Mutt Nut doesn't feel pain, so he's fine.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I'm sweet, bro. I'm sweet. Just go. And I could just see blood. And I'm like, I don't know how bad he's bit him there, but I've got to go because I'm going onto the trial field. And like, I'm trialing. And then I get off. Unfortunately, we have a lad that trains at our club that's actually a doctor. He's a GP. And so as I come off the field, then he's like literally super gluing his hand back together. So funny now. And funny because it's the Mutt Nut. And it turns out he does bleed.
Yeah. And your dog's got a live bite. Counts.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to edit that. I can't let people know that he's not superhuman. That's
on the world's hardest man as well.
The coolest. Hey, mate, I know it's the middle of the night there in England. We should probably wrap things up for you. Hit us with your final words. Plug all your shit. Give us the final wrap up from the Yorkshire Canine Academy.
I will very quickly plug the events. I've already plugged the event. So come and see me if you want to come along in California, mid-July and September. We're decent at marketing, so we'll probably like find you. If you've listened to this, you'll probably see something about it. So
just whisper Jacob's name and he will fucking find you.
Yeah, it'll pop up somewhere.
Or just mention it
3 times looking into a mirror and he will come out of the mirror.
Just mention it to the Mutt Nut. He'll tell you.
Dressed as the dog daddy.
Yeah. Ask the Mutt Nut.
The Mutt Nut will tell you, yeah.
You just think about dog training.
Is he coming out to Australia with you?
He's coming to America. He'll probably come to Australia as well.
If he doesn't come to Australia, I'll be fucking heartbroken.
Yep.
I'll be devastated if he's not here.
Yeah, I have to touch him now.
I'm legitimately going to get his Mrs. Brooke to, hey, look, Brooke's had a mention now, to actually film his whole response to this podcast. Yeah.
Maybe he's our next guest.
Yeah, no, don't do that to me, please. You know how long it took me to get on this fucking podcast? If you fucking let the Mutt Nut on a podcast, you only used a prong collar for the first time last week. Fuck you guys.
He deserves to be on then. Hey, Jake, I need you to clue us into some of the phrases that you use on your podcast. What's chinning?
Like either if it's like in the context of a dog, it's a dog biting you, or if you've chinned a bloke, you've given him a hiding, yeah.
Like a punch on the chin?
Yeah. Or you could like chin a beer, I guess, as well.
Yep. What are some other phrases that you use in the UK? Come on, load us up.
Like sound, that's like good, really good, like perfect.
What's that? Sound?
Sound, yeah.
Yep.
That's more of like a northern thing. So sound. Oh God, I don't know. You caught me on the spot here. I have to get a more sound bite.
Practice them when you come out here. I want you to talk in a way no one understands.
Yeah, all right.
When I was an apprentice, it was an all Irish company, and they were speaking English, but I couldn't fucking understand a word they were saying.
Nah.
They were saying other things. Okay, so you're coming out here in September.
Yeah.
What else is going on? How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, we'll find you. We'll find you. Just think about dog training. The algorithm will do its job. All right. We spend a fair amount on paid ads. So
or if it doesn't, how would they?
Just Yorkshire Canine Academy on Instagram. You're better off on email nowadays. Our Instagram just gets, we got that little robot, so it can get quite messy. But yeah, just click a link in a bio or send me a message on Instagram. My own DMs I'm pretty good at. JM Dog Trainer or YCA. We got someone that will reply to you. Yeah, so that'll be nice. Good. Very quickly, I want to thank you both for having me, and sincerely would not be where I am today without you guys and your podcast. It's no exaggeration to say that your podcast like completely changed my life. So I am forever in your debt.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, sir.
That means a lot.
It's good to know.
I've appreciated going on your podcast several times too, mate. It was nice to be able to tell a story and share some laughs with you as well. So thank you for having us on.
Oh, good.
Mate, we'll do something in person when you're here for sure, but otherwise we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Right.
That's it. Another episode, Canine Paradigm, done. As always, if you like what you hear, like, rate, share, subscribe, do that through whatever subscription service you download us from, then go to another one, do it there. They don't check. If you want to get in touch with us, I've missed a bit. If you want to support the show, you can jump into Patreon. Give us your money. Give it to us. We need it. You could give us $3 a month. You get giant backlog of information as well as new stuff going forward, or you could pay more and get live streams. But absolutely, if you want to buy me or Glenn a Lamborghini, you are able to do that.
Well, it's tax time now. We need those dollary dues.
Yeah, exactly. If you're looking to get in touch with us, the best way to do that is to jump in the Facebook discussion groups, like 10,000 people in there.
Or ask the Mutt Nut.
about-
He'll lead you to us.
Yeah. If you want actual dog training advice, best way to do that is get in touch with the Mutt Nut. He's the best dog trainer I've ever heard of. But if you want to contact us, you can do that as well. You can shoot us an email at info@thecanineparadigm.com. Mutt Nut's the best dog trainer in the world. Goodbye.
This song goes out to you, Mutt Nut. It's all about you, brother. I had you in mind when I picked this out of the list. Here you go.